And just being like a member of the community more than anything. Somebody that from a young age, like, people look up to, a leader. And for a while, it was for all the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? Just being a kid in the neighborhood, not really nothing to do a lot of the time. So we did the wrong things. We looked up to the wrong people. So yeah, I used to be like the leader of the negativity and doing the wrong things. And then I just figured out a way to make doing the positive stuff fun. And that was content and just doing videos. And even in that, I grew. Like, when I first started, it was more so like hectic stuff, just doing like wild stuff for a reaction. And then it kind of grew as I did into like speaking about like mental health, trauma, just being a father, you know, raising sons at that, black sons at that, just talking about the system, and just stuff that's going on in the community. So that's little.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, one, I want to thank you, members, for being so open, right?
Yeah.
And you know, these are things that we need to do. And we come from the faith tradition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know the Bible says it this way: we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. That's your story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And loving out our life in the death. Our story is to give God glory,
Right.
not us,
Right.
right? But we got to tell the truth.
Right.
To be able to really give him glory. And it's not painting this beautiful, perfect picture.
Right.
You know, life's not like that.
Right.
Right. And so you have heard my story.
Right.
And you've been supportive, right? Your dad's one of my best friends, right? And so, you know, my story doesn't glorify me, but it glorifies God. How he's kept me in the midst of my own foolish choices. But some of those foolish choices came as a result of environment and trauma, right? So the environments that we have impact sometimes the choices that we make. But as long as there's life, there's hope, right? So tell me, because one of the things that always impressed me about your dad growing up was that you were always with him as a little boy. And you don't see that a lot. You know, every time he came to church, he had you with him, right? And quite candidly, my dad, God rest his soul, was a bishop. He was a pastor all my life. I'm one of 13 kids, the firstborn son, third eldest child. And, you know, I adore my dad. I'm so grateful that he steeped me in the Word of God, because our parents trained us up in the Word of God. But what my father didn't do that I longed for was spend the time with me that I really wanted him to. I remember wanting to be with him, you know, but he worked all the time. He was the provider. He was a disciplinarian. He was the preacher. So, you know, and I just wanted to be with you, right? And he's like, no, you got to stay home and take care of your mom, you know, help support your mom, because you're the man of the house while I'm not here and she's doing daycare and stuff. But I longed for that intimacy with my dad. So you had that with your dad. So what happened? To the point you said in and out the system, you said, and you talked about it a little bit, but just, you know, sometimes people will say your father's not in your life. So that's why people get caught up in the streets.
Right.
So just real talk.
And I go through this a lot, because people like, well, my story, it's like, you know, how did you end up in and out of jail? How did you end up with the lifestyle you live? When you had a dad, when you got parents, you had to grow up in a two-parent household. And I always say, like, it's your choices at the end of the day. Like, I didn't grow up rough. I had a great childhood. I always tell everybody that, like, my parents are great. I had a great childhood. But when you leave a house, you make your own decisions.
Facts.
Like, your parents can bring you up and teach you everything to know, but you're going to leave a house and you're your own person. So I could say, like, and it helped and it hurt, because it's like me being around my dad, he showed me how to be a leader. And like I said, I was leading people to do the wrong stuff. Like, I was the leader of the group. I didn't follow, but it's just, I used my, I would say, favor, and people wanted to follow me, and I chose doing the wrong things until I like got older and realized, like, all right, I don't want this for my life, and I just chose to do better.
That's great. That's great. I'm going. You know, they've got a few folks. I don't know if you guys want to weigh in at all. Do you have any questions for Nate? Yes, no. I don't want to put you on the spot, but James, I see you.
Well, that's an interesting point that you bring up about making our own decisions.
Come a little closer to the mic.
It, kind of suggests that there are other influences that are strong, in our lives, especially early, outside of the household, outside of the mom and the dad. And so what are some of those kind of influences?
I mean, I could pin, and I'm like, being incarcerated, I had a lot of time to think to myself. I spoke a lot about it, and I figured it out. Like, I pinpointed, like, because I'm like, how did I end up here? What went wrong in my life to make me end up here? And I pinpointed it to, like, environment. It wasn't my home. It was environment and the things that happened to me that made me move the way I move and react the way I reacted. I remember, like, coming up, my dad always taught me how to hustle. I was selling candy at church.
I remember that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I was that young kid that could pull out $1,000 because I had it because I was hustling, and my pops taught me that. So growing up, I used to sell like phones, shoes. I used to just get it for $100, clean it up, learn how to clean it up. Now sell it for $200. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that was how I made my bread. And I remember one night I went to go do a deal with somebody, and they robbed me. And I think I was around like 14, 15. And I remember because my pops was supposed to go with me, but I was impatient. And I just went. I'm like, yo, you're taking too long. So I went, and I had got robbed. And it kind of traumatized me. For me, it was 3 grown men. I was like 14, 15. And then they like took all my phones. And it just made me feel less than. And then I could say from that day forward, I just moved different. And I don't know. From that day, I just started getting into stuff. I started getting arrested. I started thinking it was okay to like do certain things when it wasn't, because it was done to me. You know what I mean? We always say that, like, I didn't start doing something until it got done to me. And I remember after that, it kind of like was a turning point. And then another pinpoint moment I had was my friends. We would go out. I got arrested for my friend stealing from a store. And then he got away. I got caught. And it wasn't that I got caught, but the police officer that arrested me, he had pushed me into like a construction site because he was an off-duty cop. And then we went into a construction site, and like he actually fought me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm 16 at this time, so he really roughed me up. He slammed me on the ground, elbowing me, like really messing me up. So after that, I just kind of like I don't know. It just made me like, 1, hate the police, 2, just like defy authority. You know what I'm saying? Like, and just not care, because I just felt like I was useless, like I was weak. You know what I'm saying? So I never want to feel like that again. And I used that energy, and I started doing the wrong things, and just really stopped caring. So I can say, like, from those points, and it was around the same time, from those points up until like recently, it was just like a battle of like, I didn't care about stuff, and I would just do what I want to do. And before that, I didn't think like that. So I feel like it was those like moments that kind of changed my trajectory.
And that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's common, right? That when authority abuses their power, then you have no respect and you feel hopeless.
Yeah.
So it's just like, the most dangerous thing is a person who's hopeless,
right?
Because they feel they got nothing to lose.
Yeah. And I used to move like that, like, even like, especially before I had kids. It's like, bro, I don't care about anything. Like, I just do what I want to do, and that's how I would move. and I just chose the wrong things. And then I remember one night I pulled up on my boy. We was just talking outside in the South End, and somebody had mistaken, I don't know if it was mistaken identity, but he wasn't into nothing, I wasn't into nothing, but it was where we was at, the neighborhood, you know, it's gang infested, but us two, we was them kids that everybody knew, everybody liked. We just ended up living, he just ended up living in the hood, but he wasn't involved in nothing. So I guess they thought we was somebody else, and they started shooting at us. And after that, it was kind of like my wake-up call, because after that I kind of really put all my effort and all my passion into like the music. I was DJing at the time, I was doing content, but I was like kind of doing it, kind of not doing it, you know, like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, just like not taking it serious. And after that, it was like I just took it more serious, and then after that it just took off, and I just kept at it.
So Justin Rodriguez, he is asking, what triggered you to change inside? What skills did you attain inside?
Inside being incarcerated?
Yes.
Ask the question again.
He said, so what triggered you to change inside? And I don't know if he means on the inside of you and or while you were incarcerated, but he says, and what skills did you attain inside? So I don't know if he means inside of yourself or
I'll kind of answer both of them.
Okay.
First, the main one was accountability. Like before like I went to jail, I had no accountability. I always blamed what I did on others. Like, oh, I did this because of that, and I don't feel like I'm wrong because I did it for a reason. And it's like, yeah, you could have a reason, but at the end of the day, you're a man, and you got to take accountability for what you do. It's not about what they do, it's about what you do. Feel me? Because every action don't deserve a reaction, don't need a reaction.
Facts.
And I didn't understand that concept until I went to jail, and I had to sit and really realize, like, this person did X, I did Y. X don't even matter. I'm in here, and I have to deal with it. So I gotta just start taking accountability. And that's the first time like I really like understood what accountability is. So I appreciate the whole experience, because I feel like men, especially like black men, young black men, we don't take enough accountability. And we all know it's made for us to fail, but we got to take the accountability of what can we do to make it better for us. What can we do to make it better for our people? What can we do? You know, like, we understand it's messed up, but we gotta, like, it's been going on so long. If we continue in a cycle, we only gotta blame ourselves. Like, we know what's going on. And you should at this point. It's been going on so long. You know what's going on. So we got to take the accountability. And it was really those just milestones. Like when I got shot at, that's when I just started taking the content and everything serious. And then when I got locked up, I just started taking accountability and just realizing. And I started backtracking and writing stuff down. Like, all right, this happened because of this, and I'm this way because of that. I'm this way because of that. You know, I really like had to backtrack and do the research on myself and become self-aware. So those incidents really like shape what I'm doing now and how I move now.
A couple of things you said. The question that is coming to my mind is, at what point did you start realizing that you could shape your own narrative, like start directing your own story, like moving in a different direction, regardless of influences and stuff up to that point, whenever that point was, you realized that now you are the storyteller in your life?
And it's crazy because I kind of, like, I'm still dealing with that every day. Because, like, even now, it's like stuff be brought up, stuff be said, and it's like I gotta really just own it. And then it only affects you if it affects you. You know what I mean? Like, it only affects you if it infects you. And I had to just stop letting things and what people say and how people think about me, what they say about me, because once you do the research within yourself and become self-aware, it's like you realize how powerful you are. And then I had to stop putting my faith in people and put it in God, because once I did that, I'm just like, I can do whatever I want. You know what I'm saying? As long as I'm in my purpose, I can do whatever I want. And I started moving like, if I'm blessed by God and I have faith in God, how does anything you do affect me? How is it gonna slow me down unless I let it? You know what I'm saying? So once I started doing that, everything just became autopilot, and then I just move. Like, stuff happens all the time, and it don't really faze me. Like, I go through it. Of course it affects you. Of course, like, people stab you in the back. Of course they're gonna hurt you, but it doesn't affect you to the point where you stop what you're doing because you know you're moving in God's purpose. How could it affect you?
There's a lot of power in that.
Nah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, and more you can realize that you take your power back, and people don't have influence over you as they did,
as they thought they did,
or probably
as they really did.
Yeah. So there's a lot of freedom in that direction to continue to grow, expand in that.
And that's why I tell people this all the time, even while I was incarcerated. I'm like, bro, I gained my freedom being in jail, bro. And people like, yo, wow, because I gained my mental freedom, bro. I felt better. I thought better. The stuff I did, my habits that I gained while incarcerated was the best I ever had. So it's like I gained my freedom with being locked up.
Can you break that down a little more? I understand what you're saying.
Right. It's kind of hard to explain but I did all the little steps. I did the work, you know what I'm saying? And it started, I ain't gonna lie, it started with working out. It started with physically being better, because then I physically got better. I lost 80 pounds in 6 months.
That's a lot.
You know? And people was like, yo, you're crazy. Like, all you do is work out, like, all day. I'm working out 4 hours a day. What else is there to do? Sit and talk to you about X, Y, and Z, and nah. So then I started working out, started feeling better. Then I started thinking better. I started reading books. I started writing stuff down. We had yoga. I'm in college classes. I'm getting college degrees. I got a scholarship while I was locked up. When donor sponsors come to the unit and talk about the programs we got, I'm the one speaking. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I became the best version of myself while being incarcerated. So it just started with little baby steps, because before I started doing that, before I started working out, I was like, I'm going home to go do the same exact thing. Like, jail will teach you just how to be a better criminal if you let it. I mean, all the best criminals, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm just like, all right, I can make connections here and there. So it's like, if you let it bring you this way, it'll bring you that way in the worst way. You know, I'm just like, all right, how do I not get caught again? And then I just thought of like, all right, how do I not ever come back here? And just, how do I make this make sense? I'm learning about stocks and bonds. I'm learning about AI. I'm doing all of this from jail, and I was home and I wasn't doing any of this. You know, like I gained a better relationship with my son while being locked up than on the street, and that's crazy. So it's all about environment, and I didn't let my environment control me. You know, I controlled my environment, and I could just say you got to start by doing the little things, bro. That's why I'm in school to be a personal trainer right now, because especially like for black men, I just feel like that is the first step. Like, that helped me in every aspect of just working out, just understanding your body. You're molding yourself to be better. Because it's like every day I'm just getting better every day. Okay, I do a mile. Next week I'm doing 2. Now I'm up to 7. Then it's like, wow, I can run a marathon. When you think about it, before you're like, I could never run 26.2 miles. Now I'm training for that. So it's just like, you got to start with the little stuff. And for me, it was just my body. And I just feel like it all aligns, body, mind, soul. So choose whichever one you want to start with. And I always say that, like.
That's wise words.
Wow. So Nicholas D. Darnett, he actually just joined us, as well as Pops is here in the studio as well. I'm just loving the village, right? Because that's what it takes, right? And to see black men and intergenerational, like, this is priceless, what we need more of, right? So, but I want to ask you about one, because you were talking about intergenerational, right? And so when you were incarcerated and you were, so your relationship with your son, how many children you have?
I have 2.
And what are their ages?
They're both 4 years old.
Okay. 4 years old.
Yeah.
Now, and again, we keep it 100, right?
Yeah.
So, are they from the same?
No,
mother?
they're not.
And you're not married to either?
No.
Okay. So, that's another piece, right? Like, because I can't tell you how many brothers get caught up because of baby mama drama, right? And you already in the system,
right? And
just do one thing, and next thing you're back in,
right? So,
talk a little bit about that and how that has, how you feel that's impacting your life, even and when you were incarcerated, the being absent from. Did you have both sons while you were? They were.
Yeah, they was already born.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Okay. And so were you able to engage them? What was your relationship like with them while you were incarcerated?
I had a relationship with one while I was incarcerated. The other one I didn't speak to the whole time. And that's just because his mother, just picked up and left. And at first I was mad, but I had to respect the fact what you got to do is what's best for you. And if you felt that was best, I believe in your decision, and I'm not mad. But honestly, that's probably the hardest part of my life, even to this day, because that's like a never-ending battle, just dealing with the kids' moms. There's so many moving parts, and it's like, bro, I'm young, you know what I'm saying? And they're even younger. And my children are even younger, so it's like you just dealing with, it's constant changes with feelings, with life, what they're going through, what I'm going through, what my son is going through. And I battle that to this day. Like, that's probably the hardest part with everything that I'm doing, is just my own self, business, then family, and just kids and stuff like that, and how to make it work. That's probably the hardest part.
Can you elaborate? I mean, from again, what you're comfortable with, but in terms of like some of how that has manifested in being problematic for you.
It's been an issue because I wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I wasn't there because of my situation, being incarcerated. So it's like, think about it. For one of my son's birth, I was there. For the other one, I wasn't. For one of my son's first birthday, I was there. For the other one, I wasn't. For one of my son's birthday, I wasn't there for the second birthday for either of them, or the third birthday. So now I've just been around for the fourth, and it's like, even when I came back home, I had a relationship with one, and I'm just trying to figure it all out. I'm trying to assert my dominance, like, yo, I'm your dad, but it's like, you don't know me, you know? So at first it was hard, because I'm just like, damn, I was there at one point, and then I wasn't, and I'm thinking, okay, that's my son, he's supposed to, you know? And it wasn't that. It was like, bro, I don't know you. And I couldn't be mad at that. I definitely felt the type of way, but it's just the little steps of just working with him, and just keeping the consistency. And that's probably the hardest part, just trying to keep the consistency, and then dealing with the moms and stuff like that, especially with them being so close in age, and the baby mama drama, and then especially the type of things I do, like the work I don't got like a simple regular life, you know. I'm doing a lot of stuff. I'm not around a lot like I want to be, but it's like, I know it's for, like, I'm following my purpose, and I'm touching lives. So it's just a battle, just trying to be there and do the right thing, but also do what you feel like you're called for. And that's why it's like I'm doing a lot of stuff, and I don't speak on a lot of stuff I want to do, but I definitely want to start like a black men like father group. You get what I'm saying? Because like even now, like a lot of my friends, like what fathers and the conversation we'll have and the relationships we'll have is different from my friends who don't have kids. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
It's a different type of bond, and I noticed that. And it's just a different level of respect. Like, yo, you're doing all this stuff and you're taking care of your kids and you're still trying to make a way. But I think that's like a big important part of what we need to be doing in the community, just like making sure, because you know how they always say, yo, it takes a village.
Yup.
And then the kid gets here and that village be gone.
Facts.
You know, a lot of people be here during the gender reveals and first birthdays, second, third, fourth birthday, nobody's around. So that's probably a big piece because they're the next generation.
Facts.
And it really has an effect. Like me, I grew up with my pop, so me just not even being there, it does a lot to me mentally to not be around my sons. And then I have sons at that, so it's like I want stuff a certain way. My dad had stuff a certain way. Like I grew up differently than a lot of my peers, and I see the difference of having a dad and not having a dad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just how I move, how I react to stuff, how like further ahead mentally, and like I feel like I am than the ones that didn't have their dad. So it's just, I feel like it's imperative. And then just dealing with the women be hard because a lot of them don't really see the importance of a man being there, and a lot of it's not their fault. It's it's the way the system was built. You know what I'm saying? Like they built it to where they pulled a man from the house so they can isolate the woman and try to run things. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of people my age don't really understand. They think it's like it's a stigma that's kind of like praise, and I don't get it. Like the BMBD drum, like the toxicity, it's like a thing that's like
cool.
praised and cool,
right.
like
Drama.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. We got enough stuff going on in life.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the least that I want. Like if I can just have that peaceful,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of other stuff wouldn't even be that hard. But I just understand how important family is because I had a good one. So it's like I have a lot to compare it to, and a lot of people don't.
High
so
standard.
It's like they don't have a care when they was brought up in a different way. So I just feel like a lot of stuff I'm doing is gonna lead to stuff about like how to raise kids, raise black kids, just how to deal with co-parents, and like a lot of stuff on that. Like I feel like that's one of the biggest things like we could be doing.
I love it, gentlemen. Nick, James, Dad, y'all got anything y'all wanna weigh in?
He's bringing up like a huge area that we need to address around fathering as black men. Period.
Yes.
A supportive, safe, healthy environment that we create that comes from us that addresses the needs, because we have a history and we have a lot of traumatic effects that's been directly targeted in that role, as men and as black men, as fathers. And it's been part and parcel with some of the acculturation that we've been like programmed to come up under, and it went through different changes, but you had the state and the federal government actually helping to kind of muddle those roles, misinformation, different ways that they were actually impacting that role being expressed by men, making it more challenging and more difficult to be there. In addition to all the other various stuff that happens, being separated, incarcerations, all kind of stuff. So he's talking about that, and I had a situation yesterday. A sister said to me, and she didn't really mean any harm, but it was like in mixed company, it was some women and some men, and she made a comment and said, in regards to y'all don't really count, y'all don't really matter. And she was talking about men, right? And like, I didn't respond to it in terms of like, jump on that and want to beat that comment up or react in a way that emotionally I'm offended. But the comment was a genuine expression that was said, and even if it was said with no malice, to say that, like I can't imagine me saying that to women that are present, you know, you all don't really matter, kind of thing. But it was said, and so, but it was said out of the way that we're seen, you know, and we have to take more responsibility for our images, our roles, you know, like how we are seen in society, because there's been too much that has maligned our roles. We can't leave that unattended, you know. And so he mentioned a support group, which is one of the strategies that's going to have to happen. And so coming from a young brother, that's encouraging, and you know, and even the conversation right now and the fact that, you know, son and dad are present right here is therapeutic and encouraging too about what's happening moving down the road. But there are some, you don't learn to be a dad just by accident. It's really, I'm a dad, I got 2 sons, they have kids, you know, I'm a grandfather. I'm still growing in that role. Sometimes I'm still feeling like, you know, I'm finding my way, and I'm not always so structured on being in that role and knowing what to do, what to say, how to act. It's a constant evolution for me, and I'm in my 60s, so I realize that there's some work that we need to do that gets people up to speed, like younger black men, earlier in their father experience. And so we're going to find that we're going to have to incorporate that village to create those environments.
The intergenerational, again, you know, I'm always go to the Bible, right? The Bible says it calls the old because they're wise, and the young because they're strong. The old men would have dreams, young men would have visions, sons and daughters would prophesy. He said, in the last days, I'll pour out my spirit upon all flesh. So I love that, you know, we're all believers, right? So that's the foundation, first of all, I think, because again, from my perspective, we're going counter cultures. You said the culture has this, from my perspective, a very toxic definition of what masculinity is, and I think so people are in this thug life and all this kind of stuff, and so people are aspiring to be those things. Like he said, you gotta, you know, don't be disrespected, right, and all these other kind of things, and as opposed to you being whom God has called for you to be able to be. Right, and letting stuff go, right? Not feeling like you have to respond to everything, right? But that's, to me, is counter culture. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faithfulness, meekness, and self-control. That's the character of God. Nobody was bigger or badder than Jesus, but he humbled himself, despising the shame, but for the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross. Right? And we're supposed to be his body. So we have the same character as our big brother, Jesus, the firstborn of the risen from the dead. Not these images of people whom the media is saying are your role models, who we're seeing now some stuff being exposed and so forth. And then not. Real models and role models are 2 different things I just recently learned. Real models are people who have lives that have gone through some trauma and some stuff. Role models are people who have an image, a persona, but it's polished, it's sanitized. They ain't telling you the journey. So I would have loved to hear from Nick. I would love to hear from Kirk, what y'all got to say, because Nick talks about the absolute severity of environment. And so what you got to say, bro? Come to the mic.
No, man, I'm a student right now. I'm listening, I'm learning, you know, the absolute severity of environment. It's funny. The young man said how his growth took place while he was incarcerated, and I'm familiar with that. I'm very familiar with that. And I told people I was incarcerated for almost a decade. When I was 22 years old, I was sentenced to 15 to 17 years in prison. And I told people like the best part of my life was like those 8 years that I did. Like the best part, it was the most growing I ever did. It was the most learning I ever did. At the age of 22, when I went in, I'd probably read like 4 books in my entire life. At the age of 22,
4 books.
Read 4 books in my entire life. I remember where and when I read them. I read them while locked up and incarcerated for juvenile detention center. A book called Tears of a Tiger. I was 15 years old in DYS lockup facility. Tears of a Tiger, the 13th floor. And it was like a Dr. Seuss book I read, and it was like another book. I'm hoping it was 4 books. Maybe I'm throwing the 4th one in there, but yeah. So I went in at 22, and yeah, most people in my particular situation, and especially in regards to environment, my immediate family was heavily involved in crime, for long periods of time, decades, and so I just witnessed it as a child, and I repeated what I saw, and what I was actually taught, and so yeah, so I'm familiar with that. I lived, a life, what they would say in the streets. I was raided by one of the first CPAC units to ever exist: FBI, ATF, U.S. Marshals, DEA, State Police. Got caught with like a half a kilo of cocaine. Ecstasy, amitriptyline, a gun, over 300 rounds of ammunition, and they also got me for attempted murder, shooting a man in broad daylight, in the middle of the street. So I was 22 years old. That was the life that I was living. So being stopped like that, or I should say being saved like that, by God, because I know where my life was headed at that time, was, I was running full speed, prison, life in prison or hell, death, like that's where I was running. So to be saved at 22, same thing. I started my education incarcerated. I ended up getting into Boston University College. I did it for like the last 4 years of my incarceration. I only did it for like 2 years. So I had to get out and finished out on the street. I did another 2 years while released. But yeah, so it stood out to me. Environment was everything. My environment growing up was the reason why my life went into a certain direction. And when I was incarcerated, I literally changed my environment. So even though I was, like the young man was saying, it's like you're already in a controlled environment. But even then, you can still control your environment even more when you choose to, everything from the individuals you associate with, to what you allow your eyes and your ear gates to receive. What books are you reading? What information are you getting? And so yeah, so when he said that
Mm-hmm.
kind of stood out to me a lot, because I've said it many times, like those are like those 8 years in prison was like the best years of my life. I drew the closest to God that I'd ever been in my life. I learned so much about myself than I ever did in my life. I healed more than ever before in my life. So that's something.
But let me say something, Ted, because would you both say, or anybody who's been incarcerated, right? Like your stories of that was the best years and that you learned that's not the situation for many people. So we're not saying that. I mean, are you saying that incarceration is a good thing?
No.
And the system's a good system and it fixed you?
I wanted to ask my man so he could put emphasis on it. Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. For me, I'll say absolutely not. When I went in at 22, my first crime was in 1988. I was 8 years old, breaking and entering. I was 8 years old.
Wow.
So by the time I was 22, so most people when they go in at 22, they may have had like 3, 4, 5 years in the game, in the system, going in and out of the system, whatever. They may have gotten in trouble at 17, 18, 19, whatever. I started at 8. So by 22, I had already had 15 years of going in and out of the system. 15 years from foster homes, DYS lockup facilities, jail as soon as I was old enough to go at the age of 17. And then by the time I was 22, I was sentenced to before then they were threatening me for like 20 to 30 years. So when I went in at 22, I was done. So I was like, I fell straight to my knees. I said, God, I had already had 15 years of going in and out of the system at 22 years old. And so I said, like something has to change. So I was done. Yeah. So I don't give no credit to the system at all. There are, I shouldn't say at all, but there are places in which they allowed space. They allowed space for individuals to better themselves. Some people took that space seriously. Some people didn't. Go ahead. No, I was gonna say, and then in some, like one of the prisons I went to towards the last 4 years of my incarceration, it's what they would call like the best prison because it had the most programs.
Where was that?
Had colleges, MCI Norfolk.
Exactly.
So they had college programs. They had things that other prisons didn't allow. But even then, it was like, okay, there's 1,500 people. They only allow 10 people in a year out of 1,500. And so I remember signing up, and there was like 185 people that applied. The day of the testing, like only 85 people showed up, and then out of 85 people, I had to like test to into Boston University. So not only did you have to score a high enough score for Boston University, they were only taking 10 people. So you had to be one of the top 10 highest scorers. And so so it provided opportunity. So I will say that, but the same way on paper they provide opportunities. They do. I feel like, and I know from experience that they do way so much more to eliminate those opportunities. So I'm not going to give credit there at all. I'm somebody who lives very relentlessly. I don't take no for an answer easily at all. And so I fought for myself.
You did. That was intentional.
Very intentional. I'm talking about to the friends I chose. Like I only hung around with people who were like they were going to college. They were in the gym working out. They were in some college program. They was in church. They were they ran the young men's ministry or was in I was also involved in a program called Second Thoughts Incorporated, which was run by a good friend of mine, Tommy Kuntz. And I learned so much in that program. I hailed so much in that program. Then I was able to give back so much in that program to other, young kids who were in DYS lockup facilities. But that's what I did. It was all intentional.
Very intentional.
I wasn't hanging around. Some people think that, I'd hear them in there. They'd be like, oh yeah, when I get out, I'm gonna move over here. I'm gonna move over there. And I do believe my book is The Absolute Severity of Environment. So get out of a bad environment and go somewhere else. But people think if you change location, you're not gonna get a different result just because you change location.
You bring you with you.
You bring you with you. So there's some changing that you got to do of yourself, and then you take that change somewhere. Because I moved. Don't get it twisted. I'm originally born and raised in Worcester. I even lived out there in 23 years. But I'm originally born and raised in Worcester. So as soon as I got out at the age of 30, never sending a text message or an email in my entire life, starting from scratch, with 2 suitcases of hand-me-down clothes and going into a homeless shelter on Columbia Road. The Pilgrim Church. I went in there. And so I got out at the age of 30, went straight into a homeless shelter with nothing. And just started fresh from there. Wow. And God was there, and God moved and opened doors and did all these things. And no part of it was easy. And I had lots of help from lots of different people and organizations. And so that's the whole concept, environment. That's the whole compass. It takes
community, the village.
It takes a village.
And you were open to build and receive, because sometimes you offer. As I go behind the wall, right? It's a small group of folks who actually take advantage of the opportunity. We say, we want to support you, but they don't take advantage of that community that we're trying to extend you to. So I'm curious to hear. One, Michelle, who's tuned in, she said, thanks for that clarification, because I was starting to think maybe it's not all bad being locked up.
Oh, come on now.
So talk. I want to hear from you, Dave, and any other, but talk about your experience and how was it that? Talk about how you. What's the system, what you did within the system, and the challenges within the system that we need to address.
Yeah, because I take the good, but it also came with the bad, But I just outweighed the bad with the good. I don't focus on the bad, I don't focus on the people that talk down. I focus on the people that are helping me, because people are always gonna talk down, and
facts.
You're always gonna deal with struggles and people that try to steer you off your course, but you don't focus on that. So I didn't focus on that. And then it depends on you. Like, there was a lot of people that watched me lose all the weight. They're like, yo, I'm gonna get in the gym with you. You doing the same thing you doing on the street, but then expect a different result. Like, how does that work? You doing the same thing. I feel like that's just delusional if you think you're gonna get a different result and you're not changing nothing. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it's all. It's definitely not all bad. It just depending on the person, because some people go in there and get worse.
And some people, we didn't touch really. You talked a little bit on trauma and mental health, or illness, whatever you want to talk about it, mental health, addressing your mental health so you're not mentally ill, right? Because there's people who get, there's a lot of violence that happens within prison, right? And it's the people who get killed under custody and care. I was talking to Pastor Culpepper today about a brother, Shakobi Kenny, right? He had some mental health challenges, and people saw the correctional officers literally take this man's life. And he could have been out had he had the money for bail, right? But he didn't, and he's in custody and care, and unfortunately, he's no longer here, right? So some folks don't make it out,
Right.
and some folks do make it out, but never the same.
Right.
And that has nothing to do with even with you being very intentional. So just people whom there's some folks in there there's some good folks in there in terms of correctional officers, and some other folks who just love the opportunity to to take out their anger. And some folks don't like black folks.
Right.
Let's be very clear. So this is some of my experience, and when I'm hearing from people and seeing the culture of violence, right, that is there. So again, I would discourage anybody from being incarcerated. You don't want to be in the system. Don't try to say, well, I'll make the best of it. If you're in it, make the best of it.
Right.
But don't go there.
Right.
It's something that happens like from within. It's not present in the system to help somebody evolve or heal or grow, or actually it's constructed for the opposite. And in most cases, the opposite does take place. That's the reality. But for many, for some, it brings you to the mirror. It gives you an opportunity to start reflecting internally, like taking a look at some things, and in doing that, it can spark, some understanding, or it can spark some initiative. What you do is critical. And whether you're outside or inside, it was always that way.
Yes.
I mean, you're going to start to attract the things that you are expressing and putting out there. And once you start orbiting in a different way, you're going to attract people, even inside the prison, that are operating in that same kind of area. And you'll start to see you coalesce, and then there's a supportive structure that sets up like a community in the prison, right?
Yeah.
There was a few brothers that I met. I went in, I was 32. I came out, I was in my 50s, right? It was a long time, and it was in the federal system, so I was never in Massachusetts. I was always in another state. Made it difficult for visits and stuff like that, although some family members made the journey. But I realized that it was almost like going to a retreat or a mountain, because it is as you see it. Sometimes the world is as you see it too, though. So even imprisoned, you find that sometimes when I reflect back, I was more imprisoned outside.
Sure, yeah.
Then I found myself at a certain point during the incarceration, because of the transformation. I started recognizing I was experiencing a certain amount of freedom, a certain amount of growth and development that they could not take, because they didn't have no hand in it at all. It wasn't from any of their structure or their rules or any of their policies. It was something that was occurring that was spiritually, and it was of God.
Of
that
God.
was taking place.
Yes.
And I participated in that.
And you leaned into
and
that.
So then you have to be required to step up. You have to discipline up. You have to address behavior. You have to address the normal things that you have to address, even when you're home. You start doing it in a more focused way there, though, because you have more time to give to yourself. Out here, there's so much that we need to do as fathers, as as spouses, a minister, or whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
You don't get a whole lot of me time like that. That's a unique situation that it is what you do with it that is going to determine how you are impacted from it?
This is unfortunately. This is an amazing conversation. Nate, you got to come back. Will you come back?
Yeah, of course.
This is we only got 2 minutes before we have to go off the air. My time's exhausted. So, one, Dad, what you got to say? You got to say something, bro.
Well,
Come close to the mic. We want to hear you.
I'm glad to hear all the positive positions on prison or whatever. In my journey, you know, I grew up in the projects. My father lived in the house with me, but he was barely there. And I always seen my mother struggle. That bothered me. So I had to become a man. You know, I got little jobs and did stuff, and, you know, but my thing was, okay, I'm working, I'm helping my mom and this and that, but it's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the streets, I did my thing, I made a couple of dollars, you know, but I was always quiet. I always kept it on the low. I wasn't loud. I didn't go and get jewelry. I didn't go get and I was able to. I just wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
It was always about supporting my family.
Mm-hmm.
That was my only goal.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care about the rest. So fast forward, I got in trouble. I had to leave Boston, which was the best thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because on that journey, if I would have continued living that life, I know for a fact that I would have been dead.
Sure.
Or I was going to prison for a long time.
Sure.